SUVs. They represent an integral part of the automotive industry renaissance over the past couple of years. They come in just about all shapes and sizes, and they all have unique styling cues and design that give them an unmatched personality. Even I will admit to that. Let's say you're in the market for a compact crossover with modern, distinctive, and sharp styling, and one that's perfect for all the fuss of driving around in a crowded city. Well, I just happen to have a contender for you. This is the all-new second-generation Peugeot 2008. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about it. My name is Korr, and you're watching Korr's Auto Tours. So this is it, the second generation 2021 Peugeot 2008. And in this video, I'm going to give you a full review of this car, including a test drive. So let's go ahead and get started with the details. This is the second generation of Peugeot's subcompact SUV. It's built upon the CMP or EMP1 platform, which also underpins cars like the Opel Corsa and the smaller Peugeot 208. Our test car today is an Allure trim level, and the exterior color is called Vertigo Blue. One of my favorite characteristics about the 2008 is the exterior styling. It's very distinctive and unique, and it doesn't try to play it safe like a lot of other small SUVs in the same segment. The front is dominated by Peugeot's signature lion's tooth daytime running lights, as well as LED headlights. They're LED on all the trim levels, by the way. The roofline is ever so slightly sloped. Meanwhile, the side also features a new design touch that we haven't seen before on other models: the sharp creases near the front and rear fenders. As you can see, the test car has these creases accentuated by the white stripes. The rear features Peugeot's signature 3D taillights with slim, vertical LED turn signals and two real exhaust outlets. Let's talk powertrains. The 2008 is available with a lineup of gasoline and diesel engines, as well as a fully electric powertrain, so there's something for everyone. This test car has the 1.2-liter PureTech gasoline 3-cylinder with 130 horsepower. This engine is also available in a 100 horsepower flavor, and there's also a 1.5-liter diesel Blue HDI 4-cylinder with 100 or 120 horsepower. The E2008 uses a 50 kilowatt-hour battery pack and a 136 horsepower electric motor, totaling in about 320 kilometers on the WLTP cycle. The internal combustion engine versions of the 2008 are available with either a 6-speed manual transmission like this car, or an 8-speed automatic. Climbing inside the 2008, we see the latest iteration of Peugeot's iCockpit. The instrument cluster is mounted a lot higher and further forwards on the dashboard, more on that later, right above the controversial but surprisingly cool flat top and bottom steering wheel. The center is dominated by the infotainment system. The Allure trim level, like this car, brings a 10-inch display as standard, while the lower trim levels have a smaller 7-inch display. Below the infotainment system are a set of capacitive shortcut buttons for various functions, as well as the switches fashioned after piano keys, also relegated to various shortcut functionalities. The door panel is trimmed in this faux carbon fiber trim, which wouldn't be my first choice, but it does look pretty cool in the flesh. There are soft touch plastics about the place, and the seats in this Allure model are partially upholstered in leatherette. Overall, build quality is very solid and consistent on the interior. Before we move into the interior, I want to show you the key fob. It looks pretty cool, and it has 3 buttons on it. Lock and unlock are self-explanatory, and when you unlock the 2008, the lion's tooth lights at the front and the taillights flash several times to let you know that the doors are unlocked. The third button on the key fob allows you to turn on the lights, which could be useful, say, in a crowded parking lot and you're having trouble finding your car. One thing I would change about the key fob is add a button for a trunk release, but other than that, it works perfectly as it should, and the design is pretty cool too. So now it's time to check out the interior in detail, since there's quite a bit to talk about. First, we must start by, well, starting up the 2008. All you have to do is depress the clutch pedal, make sure the car is in neutral, hold down the starter button, and you're ready to go. First thing that greets you when the 2008 starts up is the gauge cluster, which is 3D. That doesn't mean that a cartoon snake will jump in your face like those 3D televisions from a decade ago. It simply means that the gauge cluster gives the illusion of having several different depths to it. You can't tell on video, but in real life the tachometer and speedometer are actually a little bit more forwards than the other gauges, if that makes any sense. As with all other Peugeot models, this screen is very configurable. There's a bunch of presets to choose from, and you can design your own preset within the infotainment system. The steering wheel is still very much Peugeot with the squashed top and bottom, which was necessary due to the way the iCockpit is laid out. The power steering is variable ratio, and it's very easy to turn. There's a Peugeot script below the airbag pad, and there's various controls on either of the spokes, with the left dial changing the gauge cluster layout, and the right one being used to change the track on the stereo. As said previously, this particular 2008 has the standard 6-speed manual transmission. The shifter action is very slick and surprisingly satisfying. To initiate reverse, pull the catch, push the lever to the left and up. Once the car is in reverse, the rear view camera, standard on the Allure trim level, appears, along with the activation of the rear parking sensors. The camera has 4 different selectable views, which is a nice touch. A 360-degree camera is curiously missing, but the 2008 still has a 5-star Euro NCAP crash test score. Peugeot has gone to great lengths to declutter this interior. Below the aforementioned piano keys and capacitive touch buttons, there are 2 USB ports, one regular and the other Type-C, as well as a cover that reveals a nicely engineered phone holder and a wireless charging pad. Unfortunately, I couldn't test the pad because my phone doesn't support wireless charging. The functions of the piano keys are as follows: recirculating air, AC off, AC max, hazards, power locks, front defroster, rear defrost. They're very clicky and feel expensive and satisfying to press. It's like a modern interpretation of the Ford GT's toggle switches, only it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to get them anymore. Now it's finally time to talk about the infotainment system. From my experience, it was surprisingly responsive and intuitive to use, although there was the occasional lag. There was also this strange bug I encountered where a song title would remain on the screen no matter how many other songs you switch to. The UI is clean and modern, and there are 3 different color themes to choose from. In higher spec 2008s, this also changes the color of the ambient lighting, but this car didn't have ambient lighting. The obvious complaint is that the climate controls are contained entirely within the infotainment system, with the exception of those few controls on the piano keys. While it wasn't a huge problem for me, it may prove to be a little distracting for some drivers, having to look at the screen to change the temperature or the zone. One more complaint I have is that the capacitive touch buttons below have absolutely no feedback. Even though they all responded to my touch on the first try, some type of clicky feedback system to let you know that you actually pressed the button would be a welcome addition. Address entry on the navigation system is pretty easy with the on-screen keyboard, but if you don't want to use it, you can always use the voice commands as demonstrated.
To begin, say a command after the tone.
Navigation.
How can I help you with navigation?
Navigate home.
Sorry, but the destination address hasn't been set.
Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are both standard, but I couldn't test them out because they're both wired and I forgot to bring a Type-C cable with me. But it's a good job that the 2008 includes both of those, as well as the Peugeot Connected App system. You can also use the infotainment system to disable stuff like the traction control and the auto stop-start system. Moving on to the rear seat room in the 2008. Straight away I noticed that if you're over 1.8 meters tall or 5'11", you have to be careful not to bang your head on the roof, as the roof line is surprisingly short. Not a huge problem, but still something to note. Once in the back seat, even though the 2008 is pretty small, it's surprisingly spacious. The driver's seat is in my driving position. I am 1.8 meters or 5'11" tall, and I have pretty good legroom and headroom, though people taller than that might find it a bit of a squeeze. Rear seat passengers also get these seat pockets integrated into the front seats, as well as 2 USB ports for charging devices while on a trip. Speaking of which, there's a 12-volt power outlet below the smartphone holder and USB ports in the front that I forgot to mention. As you can see, this particular 2008 has a child seat for demonstration purposes. ISOFIX anchor points on the outer 2 rear seats are standard, though this particular child seat doesn't use ISOFIX. More practicality. The 2008 has 434 liters of cargo capacity in the trunk with the seats up. As you can see, I have my camera bag in the trunk, and it seems to me like I can get at least 10 more of these in there with no problem. If you do need to carry bigger items, the rear seats do fold down, leaving you with 1,467 liters of capacity. The 2008 is also rated to tow up to 1.2 tons. And now it's finally time for the test drive. And yes, this is the only camera angle you will be able to see, as I don't have a way to film other kinds of shots. In terms of the driving experience, there's a lot to like about the 2008. For starters, it's pretty small and very maneuverable for parking, with the rear view camera and sensors contributing to that. The steering is very lightweight, and while some people may be thrown off by the odd-shaped steering wheel, you get used to it very quickly. At least I did. The shifter action is very smooth and direct, and it's surprisingly fun to shift gears. I did have a bit of a problem with the clutch action, but that could be because I'm a bad driver. While I haven't driven the other 2008 models, it looks to me like the 1.2 PureTech with 130 horsepower is the engine to go for. It's amazingly refined, with barely any engine noise entering into the cabin, and it's barely audible even when you're standing outside the car. It picks up speed very well if you need it to overtake, especially in third gear, but it's very relaxed when you're just cruising at the speed limit like I was during the drive. Unfortunately, not every part of the driving experience was perfect. Yes, you might have guessed it, but it's time to talk about the steering wheel obstructing the instrument cluster. With the way I had the steering wheel set up, the top part of the steering wheel was aligned with the very bottom of the cluster, which doesn't usually display information. However, if you like to sit lower or place the steering wheel higher, then there is a chance that the wheel can obstruct your view of the gauges. Another problem that I personally had was that the windshield was very small. You can't tell on video, but it just seemed a bit too squashed. And the A-pillar is quite thick, so you might have to do some viewing acrobatics when you're at junctions. Finally, there was a small amount of body roll when taking corners. Not we're on our way to having an accident body roll, but still noticeable nonetheless. Sadly, due to the limited time I had with the car, I wasn't able to take it out on the highway and see how it behaves there. But here in Macedonia, the 2008 took the 2021 Golden Wheel Award for the most wanted city car, so it seems very appropriate. It's now a good time to mention that the 2008 has 3 different drive modes: Eco, Sport, and Normal. These change the car's behavior relative to the driver's mood and the conditions. It's also available with something called grip control. There's no all-wheel drive offered on the 2008, but the system works with the front wheels and gives you more grip in certain weather conditions. Finally, to touch on pricing, the 2008's base price here in Macedonia is 17,880 euros, and the price of the test car with the Allure package and a few options is 21,990, with included VAT and a promo discount. So, what's the verdict on the Peugeot 2008? It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that this was one of the best-selling cars in Europe during 2021. Although not without its flaws, with its head-turning design, good practicality, good tech, and very capable drive, the 2008 really is a great small crossover and one of the best entrants in the segment. The Peugeot 2008 gets a rating of 7.5 out of 10. Special thank you to Euroimpex Macedonia for allowing me to spend a couple days with and drive this car. That's going to be about it for this Korr auto tour, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. There will be links in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.